This review covers the Dodge Shelby Charger kit. It's a 125 scale kit from MPC number 987. The 1986 Dodge Shelby Charger was a collaboration between Dodge and the renowned automotive designer Carroll Shelby. And based on a compact front-wheel drive Dodge Charger, it was equipped with a turbocharger, an inline-4 engine that produced 148 horsepower, which wasn't too bad for the times, from a 4-cylinder engine, that is. Now, the car also featured Shelby-specific performance upgrades and Shelby graphics. About 7,600 were built at around $9,400 each. This kit was just returned after being released over 30 years ago, and the kit is filled with a lot of optional parts. It's got rear louvers, fender flares, and you can either build a stock or turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. You also get stock Shelby wheels or custom chrome wheels. It's got a nice detailed chassis and front-wheel drive system. It's molded in 143 parts that are white, clear, transparent red with some chrome-plated parts and black vinyl tires. It also has remastered water slide decals with all new bonus graphic options. When you're done, it's about 6 3/4 inches long, 2.5 inches wide, and 1 3/4 inches high. Here are the contents of the kit. As you can see, the parts are pretty good shape. The molds are fairly flash-free. The vinyl tires are nice. And the window glass, although it's a one-piece unit, it's a little thick, but they're pretty clear. Also, you'll find that the chrome is just about the right thickness, and it doesn't look too toy-like. As I mentioned, the decals are remastered, but they are basically the decals from a previous kit, although the register is very good on the new updated decal sheet. There are two wheel options in this kit. The rims come in either the stock Shelby version or a custom version, and they both look really nice. They're great looking wheels. And it's a standard construction. You simply sandwich the internal rotator disc that's attached to your spindles inside the sandwiched wheels, and you just sandwich that around the tires. Now you can build either the turbocharged Shelby engine, or you can build the standard 4-cylinder inline, which was mostly found in the Omni 024. But the turbocharged version, of course, is what we'll be using for our Shelby here, and the engine goes together pretty well. The parts all fit very nicely, and in the end, you've got a fairly decent-looking Shelby engine. We're going to turn our attention to the chassis next, but I want to point out something that I found, which used to be pretty prevalent. The ejector pins here have some slight grease marks in them. So if you want to build a nice model and have a good finish, you're going to have to clean that up with a little mild detergent and toothbrush, dry it off, and then a light coat of primer will cover that issue. Next, we'll gather up these pieces for the chassis. You can see the exhaust there and the rear suspension piece and a couple of shocks. So we'll assemble those, and that gets painted body color with some black parts belonging to the chassis pieces. Let's install the front suspension next, and we'll gather these pieces. And I found that attaching the transmission part to the engine assembly and then installing the engine first helped to line things up a little better. Now, the starter and lower radiator hoses are attached to the engine before it's installed in the engine chassis assembly, but once again, that transmission piece, according to the instructions, is added first, but I found that it'd be easier if the engine was installed and then you add the transmission piece later. Now, this is some of the accessory items that go into the engine bay, along with the firewall there, as you see. So we'll be detailing those and adding them next. So the engine bay is basically black, except for the firewall there. You see that's part of that body. Also, in the engine is located into position. Just look for those motor mounts and glue that into place and add the accessory items around the engine bay as seen. And here you see the fan along with the radiator parts and brace. I'd put the fan onto the motor, now, and then go ahead and install the rest of these pieces. Of course, the radiator portions are black, and get those installed into the engine bay to complete that section. Next, we can snap those wheel assemblies onto the spindles and axles, and if you want them not to rotate, use some glue. Otherwise, just push them into place. They'll snap into position. There's also some seating options here for this kit. There's two options, either stock or custom for the front seats. The rear bench doesn't change, so I painted those with an inset of a different color, kind of coordinate with the body, and then the interior color around the outside. You see here the roll cage that's included with the kit, and that belongs to a different version, the racing version that came out a few years before this. The interior is pretty straightforward, and it goes together with no issues. Here, as well as the latter Dodge Chargers, they were some differences in the dashboard IP clusters there. They were a little different, but they were basically the same thing. Gather up the pieces here you see for the dash, the steering column along with the wheel and the dashboard, and we'll detail those and install those into the notches in the front of the interior. Here's a look at that interior with the dash installed. You can see it's got some nice contrast to it. And of course, most of the instrument panel and items in the dashboard were painted black, a semi-gloss black as you can see, but made for a pretty nice looking interior. And now it's time to grab that body, and we're going to clean it up. There's some light parting lines on there you'll want to remove, and add the cleanup there to the front and rear fascia. And we've got some fender flares that we will add to make this a Shelby version too. Now be mindful when you're doing your cleanup that those ejector pins on the inside had some grease on them. So go ahead and scrub that out and dry it off before you give the whole unit a light gray primer. Now, from time to time, you'll find a little spot of a fleck or something, contamination that's inside the mold. Just make sure it doesn't protrude through the outside, and it'll just prime over. You'll never see it. Now we'll work with the window glass. As you can see, it's got a lot of sprue attachment points. You'll need to clip those off a little away from the glass itself, and then use a sandpaper stick to clean it up to the edges so you get a good fit. And then go ahead and install the rear view mirror into the window, and then place the window unit inside the body and use some white or clear glue to glue that into position. Now that we have that window glass installed and it's dried in place, we can go ahead and turn that body upside down and then drop the chassis into position. And you can make sure that fits nice and snug there with the body on its resting on its mounts. Begin to add some of those details to the exterior. You see the hood here with that cool looking hood bump. We're going to give that once again a light gray primer and paint that body color just like the body and install some pieces to the outside. Here are the headlights that you'll install into the front end there, and you can give them a little more realism if you add a little light I should say thinned white paint on the face there to give it more of a look of a real headlight. So, and these are the racing lights, the high beam high top racing lights that are on the roof. Go ahead and I decided to use those for my this version. I'm going to add those to the top, as you can see, along with some ground lights there for extra effect when you're going over rough terrain. So that's the way I built this model, and as you can see, it's quite a unique look. Next, we'll add the taillights. You can see that they are molded in transparent red in this kit, and we can glue those right into position into the back end. And you can use any kind of glue as long as it's not excessive to get those into position. Next, we can add the fuel filler cap. That's either a body color or a semi-gloss black. I've seen it in both manners. Well, that's just about it for this kit. Now, as you can see here, I've enjoyed building this kit. It's one of my favorites, favorite cars from the 90s, 80s, and 90s, and I've had a chance to build just about all of them, and they've all been enjoyable. Well, there you have it. Your model kit is done. As you can see, it's a pretty snappy looking little car. Even with those racing lights on it, it's got a nice presence to it. It's almost that aggressive styling that we used to love back in the late 80s and 90s. And if you were around then, you've probably seen a lot of these, and maybe you had a chance to even own one of these yourself. Well, if I were you, I'd go out and buy one and put it on my shelf.
Thanks for joining us at Right On Replicas, where we're proud to bring you the best scale model kit reviews on the planet.
This review is brought to you in part by Ryder's Hobby Shops, where the fun begins. Stop in to one of Ryder's 2 convenient Michigan locations, where you'll find a full range of the latest hobby products, supplies, parts, tools, and paint. You'll find aisles and aisles of scale model kits, RC models, model rockets, Warhammer gaming, and railroading products. Stop in at Ryder's today and tell them Doug sent you.